everybody, Brickhouse here, and it's always fun to talk about Disney and Marvel and Disney Marvel and why they are failing and also the effect they have on other projects. And this is case in point. Adam Devine. He stars on Righteous Gemstones. Well, he is of the opinion that Marvel has ruined the ability for Hollywood to produce comedies. And I found this on Bounding Into Comics. I'm sure it's in other places too, like Variety, Deadline, comicbookmovies.com, so on and so forth. But Adam states that people go to the theater expecting to watch something that costs $200 million to make, and comedy movies just aren't that. He's right. Comedies don't generally cost $200 million to make. Keep in mind, that's before all the marketing and advertising, publicity. In the opinion of actor Adam Devine, both Marvel's exorbitant budgets and a general desire by studios to inject a hidden message into everything are to blame for the currently abysmal state of Hollywood comedies. He's not wrong. There really hasn't been a good Hollywood comedy for quite a while. Devine, best known for his own comedic appearances as Andy Bailey on Modern Family, Bumper in the Pitch Perfect franchise, and a highly exaggerated version of himself on his own co-created television series Workaholics, offered his thoughts on the current state of comedic media during an appearance on the 451st episode of fellow comedian Theo Von's This Past Weekend podcast. Met at one point during the conversation with an assertion from Vaughn that it's so hard to get a movie created and to the finish line, especially these days, it seems even harder. Devine opined, due to especially comedies nowadays, you have to mask it. That's why Devine's recent film, The Outlaws, is a big action, wink, wink, nudge, nudge comedy. You really have to go like action, action, and then it's comedy, explained the comedian. It's why I was so happy to work with Adam Sandler's company, Happy Madison Productions. We could just go full steam on the comedy as opposed to, you watch comedies these days and you're like, nah, this isn't an effing comedy. Where's the joke? Where's the bits? Asked by Vaughn, comedy's kind of bad, huh? Devine then asserted, yeah, it kind of sucks. There's still good shows and stuff, but movie comedy, it's hard. Pressed for his thoughts on just why comedic movies have become so difficult to produce, the Righteous Gemstones star speculated, my theory, I think Marvel ruined it. I feel like superhero movies kind of ruin comedies because people go to the theater and expect to watch something that costs $200 million to make. Comedy movies aren't that. So you're like, why would I spend the same amount of money to go watch a little comedy in the theater if I could spend the same amount of money and go to see something that's worth $200 million? And then they still make those movies kind of funny. I mean, they're not comedies, but they're like, oh my God, is that raccoon talking? This is hilarious, which it is, but yeah, it's not like real comedy. There used to be something like every studio would put out several comedies every year. And there was like 45, 46 comedies in the theaters every year. And then recalled, so about every week or other week or so, there's a new comedy in theaters. Then, now, last year, there were like 6 or 7. It's crazy. So again, he's not wrong. If you watch anything from Marvel Phase 4 and now Phase 5, Marvel does insert comedies into the movies. Although it's a really poor attempt, like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. They try. Heck, even Lucasfilm, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, they tried to insert some comedy in that movie. Again, not very good. And the crazy thing is, it feels like people need comedy more than ever. I feel like they want it. So that's what this movie was. And there's no hidden message. He's talking about the Outlaws, which I do want to see myself. I'm a big Pierce Brosnan fan ever since his Remington Steele days. Dating myself quite a bit, but you know what? I really don't care. I feel like nowadays, you get to the end of what you think is a comedy, and you're like, is that about global warming? Is there some deep hidden message that I'm supposed to recycle more? There has to be something else with it. Um, that is the Eternals. I believe that's what he's referencing. You know, the celestial that's in the ocean that nobody seems to reference in any of the Marvel movies now. At that point, making a slight digression to speak on Hollywood's insistence towards ideological pandering, Devine then reflected on how my job now is kind of, well, obviously acting and that kind of stuff, but then like I'm pitching a lot. So I'll like pitch movies, and every executive is like, but why should we make this movie now? And you're like, because it's funny. Because it's funny, bitch. Whatever happened to, we want to make people laugh? No, you're not allowed to make people laugh anymore. You have to have a message behind it. It has to be some ideological trope. Dovetailing back to his original point regarding inflated budgets, Devine detailed like Burt Kreschner's The Machine and Sebastian Maniscalco's movie about my father. I think the fact that they put both of those movies out in the same weekend, I'm like, that effing sucks. Because you're putting out 6 movies all year long, and then you put 2 of them out on the same weekend. Like, if you're going to see a comedy, you had to choose between these two. And then when these movies only make $8 million or whatever on opening weekend, well, you're like, maybe if it was just the one movie, maybe could have made 15 to 16. That's a healthy amount for it to make. Drawing his discussion of Hollywood's unrealistic ecosystem to a close, Devine told Vaughn and his listeners, so yeah, if you like comedy, support comedies. Watch the film. Tell your friends to watch it. And then we'll have the opportunity to make more of them. And people, you know, are like, well, if you made better comedies then, he ultimately concluded, and it's like, sure, but it's hard to make a movie, first of all. And secondly, there used to be like 40 shots at making a good comedy. And then if maybe 2 or 3 of them were classic comedy, like Old School, there were like 28 other movies that weren't Old School that came out that year. But you know what I mean? So the more opportunities we get to make classic comedies, the more we'll be able to nail it. Now, not a big surprise. His comments were picked up by the mainstream media. Many outlets framed his opinion as him blaming Marvel for ruining the standards of what is considered comedy rather than it being a criticism of Hollywood's insane profit expectations. That's exactly correct. You don't need $200 million budgets to make a good movie and to make a blockbuster. Sound of Freedom proved that. $14.5 million. Devine took to his own personal Twitter account on August the 8th to offer a clarification on his words. As a guy who loves movies and TV, it's cool to be in variety, but this is misleading. I like Marvel. I think these movies are cool. I was saying that studios, in trying to compete with Marvel, have stopped making mid-budget comedies. I miss seeing comedies in theaters. I love to go to comedies myself back in the day. I still like to see a good comedy. So his new movie, The Outlaws, a little brief synopsis here. Following the story of a young man who suspects that his soon-to-be in-laws may be the very same criminals who very recently robbed his place of work. The Outlaws is now available on Netflix. I'm going to check it out. In fact, maybe Friday night. Who knows? So tell me what you guys think. Do you think Marvel has played a big role in destroying theatrical comedy? Comment down below. While you're at it, please take the time to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell to get notified when my content becomes available here on YouTube. And as always, thank you for taking the time to watch, and I will see you later.